Hello and good whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. And thank you for listening. I think it's quite important, to be honest. And this is a quick video about sickness absence per month for 100,000 people in Foundation Year 2 doctors. What is a Foundation Year 2 doctor? Medical students, people who want to train to be doctors, they spend 5 or 6 years or so in university, medical school, and then they get loose in hospitals, first of all as Foundation Year 1 doctors for 1 year, and then as Foundation Year 2 doctors for 1 year. That year starts in August, so you get enrolled in F1, a Foundation Year 1 doctor in August, and then you get bumped up to Foundation Year 2 if you've passed the year successfully at the end of that first year, starting as an F2 the next August. So that's what these green lines on here actually. They're the start of the training as F1s and F2s. So an interesting thing about this little graph here, let me just explain different parts of it for you. This is what's called a stacked area graph. So each of these bands of color represents a different reason why people are off sick. So the band we've got at the bottom here is anxiety, stress, depression, and other psychiatric illnesses. And then you've got other things like cold, cough, and flu, just now off the top of my head. That one there. If I hover long enough over it, will it tell me? Yeah, chest and respiratory problems. And that one probably looks like something like gastrointestinal to me. What's up there? Oh, infectious diseases. Right, okay. There are loads of really, really interesting things on this chart. Really, this is really important. So first of all, we're not following the same people. These are not the same people in this group as in this group, apart from barring maybe a tiny number of people who might have been held over from 1 year to the next for some, reason, administrative or sickness or, grieving or whatever. Then somebody may have been held over from 1 year to the next, but most of these people in this year are different to people in this year. They're different to people in this year. Different. So this group here, this is the 2020 year. They were probably born. They're probably about 25, 26 at this stage here, roughly. So they were probably born in about. So if that year represents 2020. They were probably born in about 1995. This lot were probably born in about 1996, 1997, 1998, 1999, 2000. So they represent all sorts of different ranges of experience. So if you think about this lot here, if they were born in 2000, they were about 20 in 2020. So they've been exposed to COVID infections in 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25, and now in 2026. So by the time these people became F2s, they had had 5 years of COVID infections. These people here, this was when they first encountered COVID, a massive spike when COVID infections first arrived. I'm going to go through different parts of this, because then, like I said, these are different, these different shades of whatever color that is, they represent different conditions. I'm just going to, on that point, I'm just going to zoom in on 2 of the conditions. So I'm just going to deselect all of the rest of them. I'm just going to zoom in on chest and respiratory and infectious diseases. So chest and respiratory and infectious diseases were basically the 2 codes that were applied, especially during 2020, 2021, 2022. If somebody obviously had COVID in the classic COVID sense, those are the 2 codes that were used. And if I just highlight those 2, so anyone will recognize this as the classic kind of shape of the COVID pandemic. You've got the big spikes early on, and then a tapering off. Okay. Now let's just kind of flick over and just show you that on a different style of chart. These are those 2 same lines. So this isn't a stacked area graph. This is just an ordinary graph with just plotting those numbers straight against each other. You can see how chest and respiratory problems and infectious disease, they track exactly. Some of these almost exactly the same height. So this, and the shape's constant. So basically, they've got 30 different codes they can select from when they're putting somebody as off sick. It was kind of a 50-50 toss almost between putting it as a chest and respiratory problem or an infectious disease. And half the time it came out as one, half the time it came out as another. But you add those two together and you get that previous graph, which is this one. So you get that classic COVID shape. And as less emphasis got placed on COVID, that tails down. But also, when people first got COVID, those were generally the times when the acute infection, the short-term infection, was at its worst. So the first time people got COVID, they're often pretty bad. And I think that, this is 2022 here. This stage here, there were, the Omicron variant started to come in. These are quite bad waves. Most of this group would have been, like I said, young, in their mid-20s. A lot of doctors are very fit. This is the kind of like the wave of a sickness that comes in. So first time you catch it, quite a big effect. But actually, the more times you catch COVID, the acute infection, the short-term stage, the first couple of weeks, it's not actually quite so bad. So we've got less and less people off sick with this. But there are a load more things on this graph. That's just interesting, maybe. But let's add all the other ones back in. And we look at the total. So remember, you have those spikes of infectious disease and the chest and respiratory infections. They're actually skewing this graph. They bump up the graph at these points. If we take those out, chest and respiratory, infectious disease, look at this change in shape as we do this. My word. Do you see? This is the rate of NHS sickness absence. So this isn't the actual total. If I showed you the total, it goes up even sharper than this, because actually Foundation Year 2 doctors have grown in number over the last 5 years. So for reasons other than COVID infections, the number of sickness absences have almost doubled. The rate the number of sickness absences has more than doubled. The rate has, look at that. And here, the classic headline on the NHS sickness absence page says, the biggest reason for being sick was anxiety, stress, or depression. Well, that's just not true, because actually this one here is higher for most of the time. It's cold, cough, flu. If we strip all of the other ones out and just look at cold, cough, flu, something has happened, which means that F2s are now more likely to be off sick with cold, cough, flu. Going to add all the other ones back in again. Take out chest and respiratory and infectious disease again. So remember, we've got this classic shape of the COVID pandemic, where the problems caused by acute infection are generally reducing in this age group, Foundation Year 2 doctors. But then all of the other conditions are massively climbing. Massively climbing. Young people, mid-20s. But again, going back to the point I made earlier on, these young people here are not the same as these young people here. This band here, this cohort, this year's worth of F2s, who started in August 2024 and finished in August 2025, I had to kind of think that through my head then. They're a different group of people, these ones. But this group of people are sicker than this group of people. In fact, this group of people are sicker than this group of people. This group of people are sicker than this group of people. This group of people are sicker than this group of people. Now, do you think that there's a huge difference between being born in 1995 to being born in the year 2000? What is causing this difference in these two here? Well, look, actually, you can see This is the time here in the summer of 2021 when mass repeat COVID infection was allowed and encouraged. It was this point here where people got sicker and sicker and sicker. And so these people who are starting as F2s now, they might have had 5, 6, 7, 8 or more COVID infections. And those COVID infections have weakened all the other parts of the body. So let's just unclick these and just have a glance through some of them. Some of these are just bonkers. I mean, pregnancy-related ones. So this is pregnancy-related disorders. People born in 2020 are so much more likely than people born in 1995. Nervous system disorders. That increase there. Do you know, COVID infections, they disrupt the systems of the body that regulate bone density. They also disrupt things like coordination, all sorts of stuff. Look at that, injuries and fractures, the difference in proportion. Also, you're going to take longer to heal from a broken bone when you've broken it after you've caught COVID. Genitourinary and gynecological disorders. Look at that, gastrointestinal problems. COVID infections massively hammer the mucous membranes of your body. One of the most important mucous membranes of your body, the gastrointestinal lining. Now, fortunately, endocrine and glandular problems don't seem to be such a big problem for people in their mid-20s, according to this data. Eye problems rising. Looks like a general trend. Dental problems. Nose, throat problems. All of these. I don't think the heart and cardiac are a problem on this one. Well, look, that's getting worse, isn't it? Oh, headaches and migraines. Good news, maybe. Oh, is it? I don't know. That's benign and malignant tumours. Where's that trend going to go? Or is there a trend? I don't know. Blood disorders. Not much in the background there. Asthma's an interesting one. Asthma's just gradually, steadily reclaiming itself. Remember, this is time off sick for asthma. That's not just like I've had an asthma attack. That's actually, yeah, cold, cough, flu. Yeah, people are more prone to other infections and more susceptible to illness. Musculoskeletal for problems undo so badly. Back problems. And also COVID affects your brain. And anxiety, stress, depression, and other psychiatric illnesses are illnesses of the brain. This group are more susceptible than that group. That group are more susceptible than that group, that group, and that group. And all the evidence suggests that when you look at all these historically, I mean, we don't have granular data for the period before 2019. But all of the data that we do have suggests that this line here was pretty flat. The total for all of these other categories was pretty flat before 2019. I'm just going to go back and I'm just going to take out chest and respiratory and infectious diseases again and just leave you with that. COVID isn't just about the acute stage of illness. COVID is about the damage it does to you. Foundation Year 2 doctors, they are not an aging cohort. These people here are not 65 or something, or because the population of the country is aging. These people are the same age as those people were in that year when that was measured. It's really important to understand that. Also, this is not to do with having more people in the NHS. This is the rate at which they are absent. So the numbers of people in the NHS are taken into account in here. This cohort of people are massively more prone to sickness than this cohort of people. And it backs up tens of thousands of scientific studies that say that what causes this is COVID infections. These people are in the second year of work. So they haven't done 30 years in the NHS and are now suffering from burnout. These people here, if you use that terrible phrase during the pandemic, thinking that 2020 and maybe a bit of 2021 was the pandemic, these people here were not doctors during that time. They're doctors now. Now, this is only England, so maybe something else different is happening in your country. But I can tell you, in my country here in England, people have been hammered repeatedly by COVID infection. Towns and cities here, we're right on top of each other. We've got really poor air quality in our country, and we've got just a really mad sense of like turning up for work when ill, making each other sick. This is just how we are, and we are making each other sicker and sicker. Doctors who work here have a real sense of duty, and they don't want to be absent from work. But also, when you are this sick and getting sicker, all of these issues, dental problems, genitourinary and gynecological disorders, these things don't just affect the days off that you take, they affect your entire working week. When you suffer increasingly from headaches and migraines, that's not something that just happens in your work time. That happens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. People are being made sicker. And what's really scary about this is that this is the people who are at the start of their journey as doctors. Year 2 of actual practice in hospital. They've got decades and decades to go, hopefully, but actually, will they have it if they're getting sicker and sicker? When's this line going to finish? Look at the rate of that. Just put your head on an angle and look at that straight line climb. COVID infections, people think about them as being about the acute stage, but look at this. This is the ongoing damage, which is it's all charted out in so many different studies. Damage to your immune system, damage to the barriers and interfaces and linings in your body. There are problems with clotting, problems with heart problems, all sorts of different areas of nutrient supply. These are the problems caused by all of the things that COVID does to you. Autoimmune disorders that, COVID makes your body attack itself. Oh, well, this is really, really serious. And I just don't know why there aren't more people paying attention to it. Thanks for listening. And I've just got to say, mask up. Take care.